flexibility stuff. This is AIS, Assisted Isolated Stretching by Eric Nantes.
All right, actually first what we'll do is Dr. John Pecor, he's the pro beach volleyball player that's still doing the qualifiers. And as what we'll see today as I work on him actually a little bit, keep this leg straight, is we work with a whole sequence. There's protocol for opening up the entire body, and active isolated stretching, the Aaron Mattis method, is one that I've been doing over 12 years now, studying with Aaron directly and then extensively with one of the top guys that studied under him. And what we found is there's just protocol. So what we want to do is open up his single leg pelvic tilt, and John is actually going to assist his hamstring, and as you can see, bring his knee down into his armpit. So his hips are a little tight. They should be able to drop all the way down in there. So the first thing is we get the single leg pelvic tilt on both sides. I'm just going to go through it quick on one side, have him walk out of here in a circle for you. We're running out of time. But what we do is we go into, bend this knee for me, is the calf, outer calf, hamstring, rolling glute, hip, IT, soleus, and just go through a whole sequence. So what we're going to do is we're going to actively contract the agonist to lengthen the antagonist. So bend the knee, straighten the leg, draw the toe down. Okay, and he's just contracting his anterior tib and lengthening the opposite side. And then we're going to work our way up, all the way into straight leg, hamstring. So when we first saw him, his hamstring flexibility was about to here. Is that correct? Yeah. And so now, after working on it for quite some time, straight, we've gotten it to about here, which is 90 degrees and below. And in my world, with working with a lot of athletes, that Dr. Tim Brown sends us 90 degree and below on the hamstring flexibility creates a lot of challenges with our athletes as well. We'll go ahead and go on into the, for demonstration purposes, I'll use the opposite leg, and you can go into the glute. We're going to stretch his opposite glute though, so we can talk to you as we're doing it. But there's three angles for all these. You got to hit the middle of it, and you got to hit the inner and the outer part of the muscles. So the belly and the medial and lateral aspect of all these areas. And then with the glute, you go to the opposite hip, you go to the opposite shoulder, and then you get the piriformis, which is coming across the body. This leg's in straight neutral position. And then once it's across, then you rotate the hip. So this knee actually needs to rotate down towards that opposite hip.
Why,
so you get
this technique, for me, the reason that we're bringing this in is because it's a unique technique that really works with the nervous system to create flexibility. You can't have flexibility until the brain says it's cool. So if you're just trying to stretch a muscle, you're going to actually create tension. If you guys have been keeping up on flexibility studies, we know that stretching statically before an event, 2 hours before an event, will actually make you tighter, shorter, and more prone to injury. So this is a stretching system. Would you use this before an activity, or would you use it in training to gain strength over the long term?
Well, both. And that's the difference between this and yoga. Yoga is an art, and so it tends to tax you. And so with active isolated stretching, what we found is an athlete can go quickly through it and go hit every stretch and lengthen every muscle to the proper degree quickly. And it's just 2 seconds on and off. You're exhaling on the stretch, you're breathing, you're grounding yourself, you're getting the blood, oxygen, nutrients, circulation all through the body and the muscles and fascia and soft tissue everywhere. And it allows that body to be warmed up. When you're warmed up, you expend less energy and you perform at a higher level. And then every great lengthening program has a stability program, so we work right in, progress right in the joint stability for every part of their body and stabilizing each joint as we go through it. So
it's based upon reciprocal engagement.
Correct. The time that you're holding the stretch compared to the normal stretch.
2 seconds.
And why is that?
Because the stretch reflex shuts off after 2 seconds according to the system. And your body says, hey, wait, let me go ahead and release it again, and then get the blood and oxygen pumping back into there. So you actually don't have to have the athlete completely warmed up to lengthen them, but it's because it's a pumping system. So we just did a hip internal external rotation, then we'll go into an IT band. There's a couple angles. You can hit it low through here. You can go high, up and down towards the hip. This leg's straight across the center plane and internally rotated. The stretch leg is straight and externally rotated. So John should be down to the table with this leg. His IT is super tight. He's typically a really, really tight athlete, but we've opened him up, and now he's jumping a lot higher, as he'll attest to, from a lot of the lengthening and building this foundation that we've had. I'm sure they go at it on the court together. He used to play a lot too. So the last one I want to show you, there's actually a couple angles that we can hit off of this, is the biggest one that he's talking about is the hip flexor psoas. So you'd open the quads up, so go ahead and lay it on your right side for me. Bring the right knee up, grab underneath the hamstring, and so what we want to do is keep this on the right, on the side there, so there's just straight all the way through. We're bringing the heel into the glute, and then just open up the quads. So his quads are actually opened up right in there. There's several angles to hit it at. Then we can open up the hip flexor. So you always stand behind the client, supporting it right in here, and we're just lengthening. And you can see he's not really moving too much on that hip flexor. So we got to really continue to open that hip flexor up for him as well. We can also hit it off the table, getting a really good lever underneath it from behind, and hit opening up that area in all different angles. And this is the assisted version. What we do with our athletes is we'll teach them the assisted and then the unassisted that they can go in and implement on their own. Yes?
Are you going to have them warm up first for get their muscles nice and warm and then go through this?
I do typically, but with the system, if you talk to Aaron Mattis, he would say you typically didn't have to. But we go through a series of balance and some physio ball work, and before we wake up the system a little bit before we go into these, yes, typically. A lot of times we'll go and stop. If I have a long workout, an hour and a half, we'll stop in the middle and do these. We'll do the standing stretches before, and then we'll do deep ones in before we start doing the speed and the power stuff. So we can break it up. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Depends on how much time you have as well.
Okay, I gotta step in. I'm gonna have Joe come up right now, Joe Martin with TRX. What I'm gonna have everybody do, because time is pinching quickly here, is come up out of your seats. Justin's gonna do some insane hand-eye stuff and some really cool balance stuff. And while Joe is talking about TRX, so wherever you're standing, you're gonna get a piece of both here. So Joe, why don't you come on up here and give us a few words and show us some demo stuff.